Good evening and welcome to this month's edition of Maryville Cares. I'm Nina Alaprandi and I'll be your host this evening. Tonight we're going to be talking about a program administered by Maryville Academy, the St. Monica program, which is a mom's recovery home. And I have two guests tonight. First, we'll be joined by Sarah Pope. But before we get started, I'd like to welcome all of you. And if you'd like to participate in our conversation tonight, please feel free to call in at the number that you see at the bottom of the screen, 312-738-1060. I welcome your comments and your questions. So Sarah, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Sarah Pope is the clinical director for Maryville Academy, so she's very involved with the St. Monica program, as well as the Family Behavioral Health Clinic, which provides all of the clinical services for the St. Monica program. So Sarah, what is St. Monica's? Tell us about the program.
Sure. St. Monica's is a mom's recovery home for women who are newly in recovery, looking for added support, structure, a safe, sober living environment. But what makes this program unique is that they're all mothers. And they're able to bring their children to the recovery home, which is pretty unique. There's not a lot of other services like that.
And how old are the children that can come to this program?
We will work with anyone from 0 to 10 or 11 is the age range for our children.
And how about the moms? What's the age range for the moms?
The moms are anywhere from 18 all the way into their 40s.
Okay. And where are these moms coming to the St. Monica program from?
There's a variety of places they're coming from. A lot of the women are newly sober and have just finished a residential treatment program. So this is a good transition for them. Instead of them having to go right back into the community on their own with their kids, this is a step down from residential substance abuse treatment where they have a sober living environment, and they are also able to attend treatment, outpatient treatment at the clinic that's attached to the program. Aside from women coming directly from treatment, sometimes we have women who've been living in the community in normal home environments, and maybe they've recently relapsed. They need some extra support, or we'll have women who they're coming, just from home. That would be the typical.
Okay, great. We're going to come back to specifics about the program, but Sarah, there's a lot of talk in the media about the opioid epidemic. As a matter of fact, the president has declared that we're in a national emergency. Can you help us understand a little bit about why that is, and how has this opioid crisis affected the Chicagoland area?
Sure. Simply put, it's become such a crisis because of the large amount of people who are dying out there from opiate overdoses. Specifically, and this is definitely impacting the Chicagoland area as well, fentanyl. There's been a huge increase, which is a synthetic opioid, a huge surge in deaths from fentanyl overdoses. In fact, I think the most recent numbers I saw in the past 3 years, there's been a 540% increase in fentanyl-related deaths. In Chicago, we've seen a 20% increase in heroin overdoses. And one of the biggest problems is it's so easy to get. It's rampant in our city, and it's relatively cheap. So we're seeing more and more deaths every year. People are not only overdosing from street opiates, but also prescribed painkillers like Oxycontin and Vicodin.
Okay. And have you or the other clinicians in the Family Behavioral Health Clinic who are working with the St. Monica program, have you actually had experience working with some of the moms that have had opioid addiction?
Absolutely. A large amount of the women that we see are in recovery for opiate addiction. And one of the trends I've been noticing with the patients that I've been working with is when I ask them, what's your story? How did you start using heroin? Or what I've been finding is that the gateway had been, I had an accident. I was prescribed painkillers, like I mentioned, Oxycontin or Vicodin, and I became addicted. And then, you're no longer being prescribed the medication, but the addiction's still there. And it's segued into now heroin use, heroin that's laced with fentanyl, cocaine that's laced with fentanyl, and it's really easier and cheaper for people to get street opiates than it is to get prescribed. So,
and the program that Maryville's running, the St. Monica program, is specifically working with mothers with their children. So apparently that's a real crisis for our Chicagoland area. What are some of the struggles and challenges for the women in the St. Monica program, or for anyone in the community, as far as that goes, when they're trying to stay sober and, you know, they've been through their detox program and now they're in recovery? What do you see?
Sure. Well, when you're in a detox program, like you mentioned, or you're in residential substance abuse treatment, you're very protected. You're in a controlled environment. The real work happens when you go back into the real world. And so the challenge is, you hear a lot in addiction is you need to just be able to stay away from the people, places, and things that went along with your addiction. And that is a huge struggle for people. So, which is another reason that we love having this program, because it does offer women and their children an opportunity to be away from the people, places, and things that contributed to their substance abuse.
Because I would imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, that, you know, you're talking about the women that or all the people that the women have surrounded themselves with, whether they be family members or friends, people that they've been living with. You know, those are oftentimes everybody in their world. Yes or no?
Absolutely, yeah, and that's really hard, because maybe the people you were using the most with your family, you know. One of the things that we try to tell women in treatment is that just not using drugs is not the whole prescription for recovery.
It's just not enough.
No, absolutely. You have to be able to give up the things that went along with it. Or if it's a family member, you have to have, you know, at least some healthy space from it. And have a place where you can get stronger in your recovery skills and your relapse prevention skills, so that you can face some of those challenges. You're more prepared to face some of those challenges once you leave.
So what are some strategies that you or the clinical staff supporting these women, what are some strategies you offer them?
Sure. Well, first of all, the women are provided with 10 hours a week of treatment in groups, and then they also have an hour of individual with their individual clinician, and those groups, an individual, is really where we're trying to build up their toolkit, their recovery toolkit, and by providing them with more insight about their triggers to substance abuse, kind of where it stemmed from, get behind it, coping skills. We really try to do a lot of drug and substance abuse education, but then also offering a safe space for people to tell their own stories and support one another. The women, I think that's one of the things that I love seeing in this program is we're not the only ones. The people working in the clinic are not the only ones helping these women. They're helping each other. They're really supportive of each other as sober women and sober mothers. And then a big part of our job, too, is linking them with community resources, AA meetings and NA meetings in the community, because they're not going to be with us forever. And we also really stress the importance of getting a sponsor.
So, you know, that's a really unique thing here, now that I'm thinking about it. So the women, they're getting all their clinical services through the Family Behavioral Health Clinic, so a lot of their groups are together, and the clinic is located on the first floor of the building where the recovery homes are, correct?
That's right. They don't even have to walk outside to come to treatment.
Okay, but then they're also living together.
Yeah.
So how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, that can be challenging sometimes, because you're living with each other, and then you're coming into treatment together. The women really value their individual time because of that, their individual therapy. So it can be a challenge, but like I mentioned before, it can also be a real support.
And how many children do each of these women have when they come?
We've had anywhere from a woman bringing only one child, I think all the way up to 4.
So it must get pretty busy.
Yeah.
Do you ever have women or have challenges with women having their children get along with each other, or do you end up having some?
Oh, sure, that happens. But
the
kids actually, from the most part, they really enjoy each other. You have some of the older kids who like taking on a little bit of a leadership role with the younger kids or mentoring. They love to play together. I see them playing together outside in the summer months. Sure, there's conflict, but it's been overwhelmingly positive seeing the kids together. And I should mention, too, that some of the moms have asked that we see their kids for play therapy if they're showing some behavioral issues or early signs of mental health issues, and we've been able to accommodate that as well.
So the clinic that's on site not only can provide the substance abuse and mental health treatment for the moms, but if the moms are seeking it out for their children, they have the opportunity to possibly have them engage in treatment as well.
Yeah, we have the resources for that as well.
That must make it very, very convenient. What are some of the topics that you talk about in group?
Sure. Like I said, we do a lot of substance abuse education around triggers, relapse prevention skills, building those up, psychoeducation around the importance of self-care. That's a big one. Being able to effectively communicate with one another, with the outside world, so healthy communication, healthy relationships. As you can imagine, a big part of addiction can also be engaging in relationships that are destructive and working against your sobriety. So those are a few of the topics.
Okay. And you mentioned, I think you called it the toolkit. So, I imagine that, when it's time for women to move on from the recovery home, from St. Monica's, they'll really need that toolkit so that they can sort of continue to move in the right direction and not go back to some of those, unhealthier environments or relationships.
Absolutely.
That they had.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I always try to tell my clients is that it's really difficult to be in recovery in isolation. You need to build a support system around you.
Okay, great. I see we have a caller on the line. So, caller, please go ahead with your comment or question for Sarah. Hello?
Hi. Hello?
Hi, caller.
Hi. I had a question to ask you. When people go into the substance abuse treatment, when they go in for substance abuse treatment, do they always have to move in and live there?
That's a really good question. So not necessarily. Substance abuse and addiction is kind of on this continuum, and everyone is in a little bit of a different spot on that continuum. So what we do before we refer any woman to St. Monica's program, and this is what other treatment providers do as well, we do a full comprehensive substance abuse assessment. And what we're doing, and the DASA guidelines help guide us in the right directions. We're really looking at what level of care do you need. And there's typically there's more than three, but there's three main levels of care that we assess for. One is outpatient, which is just maybe it could be once a week seeing a substance abuse counselor where you're not living on site. And then intensive outpatient, which is on average 9 hours a week of treatment, but again, you're not living in the... And then there's what's called 3.5 residential level of care, and that is typically what you want to see people who are right in the middle of their addiction. They're really, really struggling, and they need a controlled environment. 3.5 inpatient substance abuse treatment typically is anywhere from 30 to 90 days. And then, like I mentioned before, when women are able to successfully finish inpatient treatment, they often need a little bit of lower level of care, the next step, and that's what we can provide. If they come to St. Monica's program, we provide intensive outpatient as well as outpatient treatment.
Okay, thank you, caller. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
So, Sarah, at the St. Monica program, as we've been talking, the women are coming with their children. And some folks at home might be listening and thinking, maybe that's not such a good idea for children to be with their moms while they're in treatment and recovery. What do you say about that?
Well, I was so happy when I found out that Maryville was partnering to do this program, because I have seen what it's like for people to for moms in particular to go into treatment without their children. I mean, I think the biggest thing is that it instills hope and motivation. You know, I have worked with women who've had to go to treatment and their kids weren't allowed to come, and it's just really, it's really hard to sustain hope. So I see it all the time. When the women bring their children with them to the recovery home, there's reminders every day of what you're working for.
And you're successfully helping keep families together.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for joining us. We do have another guest, so I just want to take this opportunity to let everybody see what the Maryville website looks like. And if you're interested to learn more about the St. Monica program or the Family Behavioral Health Clinic or any of the programs that Maryville administers, you can visit their website at www.maryvilleacademy.org. Click on the Programs tab here on the left-hand side and you'll see a drop-down menu of programs. And also would like to share that if you'd like to, again, watch this episode of Maryville Cares or any other episodes that we've had, you can also reach those through a link on this website as well. So now I am joined by Katrina Ivory, who is the parenting coach at the St. Monica program. And what does that mean, Katrina? What exactly do you do?
Well, Nina, I work with the moms to obtain their goals for themselves and their families as life is changing for them, as they're living in a sober environment and they've chosen to live sober.
And the women that are coming to you, I know you're embracing them with very open arms. One family at a time. They're coming from all sorts of different programs and different places. So how have you seen in the St. Monica program the children be affected by living in an addictive environment prior to coming to St. Monica?
Well, Nina, children thrive and develop in a safe and secure environment. And unfortunately, a child that's living in an environment of addiction is not living in a safe and secure environment, which means that they're not reaching their fullest potential. They're not developing the way that a child needs to develop. Often they assume what we call survival roles when they're living in an addicted environment, which means they're taking on roles to exist,
Okay.
to be part of a family. Every family has roles, but the children living in environments of addiction, their roles have changed. They often become caretakers.
Okay. And, you know, Sarah had talked about some of the challenges that the women are facing when they are, you know, when they've been through treatment and they're in recovery. And those of us who are parents, so I know that certainly that is challenging enough, as Sarah described. Those of us who are parents know that being a parent in the best of all circumstances is also very challenging. And here your clients that you're working with are really trying to do both. So how do you and the staff of the St. Monica program work to help the moms improve their parenting skills?
When each parent comes in, I do a parent interview. At that time, the moms are telling me what their goals for themselves and their children are. So actually, the program, we're empowering them to make decisions for themselves as their life is changing. We have a phenomenal team. Each home has what we call recovery technician workers, and these are the staff members that work directly with the moms.
Okay.
So they're there day in and day out. Moms are able to talk to them. They're able to just relate and have somebody that's going to listen and not judge.
Okay, that's fantastic. Those are the recovery coach technicians, right?
Yes.
Okay. And when we were getting ready for the show, you were telling me that not only do the women have goals for themselves with their clinicians, but that they also set some goals for their children and that you establish those together. Can you give us some examples of what some of those goals might be?
Sure, Nina. We know often when someone is addicted to a substance that they don't make the best decision. So maybe I haven't had my child have medicals the way that they need to be done, the examinations or dentals, or maybe my child's needs have went unmet. However, now that I'm in a new environment and I'm doing something different, my child is a priority. I get a chance to be a parent. And I can make mistakes and it's okay because there's somebody to support me and say, okay, let's pick up from where we started and let's just do it again because you're capable of doing so.
Fantastic. I see we have another caller. So caller, go ahead with your question, please.
Okay. Do you take donations, and what types of donations do you need?
Katrina?
Hi. Thank you for asking the questions. Yes, we do. Our moms are always, the moms and the children are always needing, so everything from clothing,
Gently used clothing.
yes, household appliances, and of course,
Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on because we're wrapping up here. The time is just going so fast. So the program's been open for close to a year, and so you've had several successful discharges, which is really great news. And I hope you'll come back another time as Sarah to talk more with us about the progress of the program. And I'd like to go ahead and share again the contact information that you can reach Maryville Academy and any of the programs or staff by dialing 847-294-1999. And you can visit the website again at www.maryvilleacademy.org. So I hope you've enjoyed tonight's version of Maryville Cares, and you can find Maryville Cares here on CAN TV, Channel 21, the fourth Monday of every month at 6 o'clock p.m. And next month's edition, which will be Monday, October the 23rd, Sister Kathy Ryan will be here, and she'll be back, and she'll be joined by Kim Williams, who's our program director for Maryville-sponsored Catholic Youth Organization, also known as CYO, which provides sports activities after school and on weekends for thousands of children in the Chicagoland area each year. So that's it for tonight's edition of Maryville Cares. I'm Nina Alaprandy, wishing you a great evening.